My first area was called Loma Panta, which is the area along the border of Asuncion and the next city to the north. That they've kind of just melted together, so you can't really tell where the border is. But yeah, that was in Asuncion. We had like 4 supermarkets in our area and a dollar store, or the Paraguayan equivalent. So Asuncion is fairly developed. They've got more sidewalks and more asphalt and stuff like that than most other cities do. My particular area was a labyrinth of streets. You could like turn left 3 times and then come to a dead end. Everywhere in Paraguay, the #1 mode of transportation is bus. That is how you get everywhere. Very few people own cars. People who do own a form of transportation it's usually a motorcycle. And even then, they probably take the bus a lot. Even a lot of wealthier people just take the bus. Sometimes the buses get crowded, and sometimes they run a little bit late or they break down. So you always have to get on the bus earlier than you want to in order to make it to where you're going. Let's see. Oh, and housing. So there's like no zoning laws that I know of in Paraguay. So sometimes you can find an apartment building next to a small single-story house, next to a 2-story house, and like you can have a mansion next to a shack, and it's just completely normal. As far as like what people do for fun, typically they what they really like to do is listen to loud music, not necessarily like rock music, but just like they turn up the music really loud, and they sit in a circle passing a cup of tereré in between themselves. Tereré is like this cold tea stuff. People who don't own a house and like don't own a house or don't own land and can't really afford to buy the land, they often kind of like homestead, where the government like designates a certain patch of land where that the owner has officially recognized as not actually needing, or something like that, and you just like build a little shanty on a small patch of land there, and next to a bunch of other shanties, and it becomes something called an asentamiento. Sometimes you can find a good humble person to teach in an asentamiento, but sometimes they've got some weird rules that you have to work around. They also speak a lot of this language called Guarani, which is native to South America, and it's really useful to learn Guarani because people speak Spanish half the time and Guarani half the time, and they'll just mix it all together. They call the mix between the two Jopara. That's what most people speak, unless they're really rich and really businesslike, and then they stick with English and Spanish. There was a leather worker in that area that I probably should have asked to make one of those scripture covers, because scripture covers are really popular, and the members who make scripture covers are so completely overwhelmed that if you ask them for one at the beginning of your mission, you might be lucky if you get it at the end.